Warping text is another great technique of injecting some uniqueness and character to your type in Illustrator. There's two different ways of using warp text. I'm going to start with the simple warp text, and then we will also have a look at using a mesh for warping text. So first of all, you need a text object, of course, to be able to use this technique. But once you have that and you have it selected, you will be able to find this option here from the options bar called Make with Warp and Make with Mesh. So there's a little drop down, or you can just simply click on this Make Envelope option as well. This would automatically bring up the warp options, which will simulate in the background already the effect of the warping, as long as you have the preview option on. So we can change the bend, which is going to change the amount of this distortion that is created with the style that is highlighted here on the top. So the style is currently set to arc, but we can choose arc lower, which means only the bottom of the text is going to be curved, but the top stays straight. Or we can use arc upper when it's the opposite, so only the top of the text is going to be warped. Every time you use a style, you can also decide whether you want it to be applied horizontally or vertically. So in this case, the warping is happening vertically. So vertical lines are being warped. And you can see that there's a lot of additional styles here. We can choose from, like flag, for example, which will work better if we set it to horizontal. Again, that means the horizontal lines are being distorted into the shape or style that we chose. Now, if I go back to the basic arc, which we had before, and I set it back to roughly the way it is by default, you can also try out distortions on a horizontal and vertical level. So what happens here is that not only does the text follow that arc that was created by the style, but you can also add additional distortion. So that's the horizontal distortion. It can go in the other way as well, of course. And then let's see if I set that back to around 0, how the vertical distortion is going to look like. So you have to be careful with this one in this case, because it can get a little bit too difficult to read the text. So once again, it just adds an additional level of distortion to the base style that we have. Let me click on OK and select the other text that we have here, and let's see what is different when we use a mesh instead of a warp preset. So once again, I come up here and use Make with Mesh this time instead of Make with Warp. And the difference here is that we can create a grid or mesh with defined rows and columns. If I turn on preview, I can actually see those points. And it's completely up to you how many rows and columns you wish to work with. And actually, you can change this later as well if you want. But let's just click OK. Now, once you have a mesh, the best tool again to work with would be the Direct Selection tool. You can press A on the keyboard or select it from the toolbar. And with this tool, you can select individual points on this mesh. So let's say if I select this and drag it up, you can see immediately that we started to distort the text inside. Again, if I select another point and then push that up, for example, or down, again, we will have a custom distortion created. So if you want to amend the text itself in either of these warp features, all you have to do is to use the Direct Selection tool to select the whole object. And then up here in the options bar, you will be able to switch between editing modes. So either editing the shape or envelope as it's called, or edit the contents. So if I switch to that, that means now I can edit the text. So I can change maybe the word text to type. As you can see, it's completely editable still. And then if I want to go back and make changes to the actual warp, then I just switch again editing mode. And now we are back and we can change the style. We can change all the features that we had before. And similarly to this, we can also do the same thing with the one where we use the mesh. You can see it's the same thing. We can edit the shape or envelope, which includes the rows and columns. And if I want to edit the text, I just switch modes, and there I would be able to edit that. With using a mesh, it's quite useful that you also have an option when you are editing the mesh itself to reset the shape. So if I choose that, it will reset it back to the way it was originally without any distortion. And last but not least, it's worth mentioning that you can actually use objects as well for distorting text. So if I create a circle and I use a simple text, I'm just going to type in circle, and I will use the style that I saved earlier on, place it in the circle, but I will make sure that this circle is above the text. So I'm going to use the shortcut Command or Control square bracket to bring it forward, or you can always right click and choose Arrange, Bring to Front. But then make sure you select both of these objects together, and then you can go to the Object menu, Envelope Distort, and Make with Top Object. So you will find here the other two options that we just explored. But if I choose this third one, Make with Top Object, then what happens is that the shape that I had on top, which was the circle, was used to distort the text underneath. And once again, similar to these other two methods, here I will be able to edit the shape itself if I'm in the mesh mode or envelope mode, but I can then switch to contents and then still amend the text inside this shape. So as you can see, there's many different ways of distorting text by using one of these warping methods. But no matter which one you work with, the greatest thing is that the text is going to still be editable. Although distortions are great, it is even cooler to create 3D text. So that's what we are going to have a look at in the next video.